This episode is produced by Pet Fox Studios. Pet Fox Studios is a recording studio in Morris, Minnesota. Visit petfoxstudios.com for more information. Welcome to the Roasted Christian Podcast. This is Bobby.
I'm John. Here at the Roasted Christian, we like our coffee the way we like our ideas. Roasted.
Yeah, boy. Welcome, listeners. The 8 of you, or maybe more. That'd be cool.
Oh, there's more.
Okay. So what episode number?
If you were omniscient, you would know how many
Johnny,
listeners there
you're darn right you would, because that's what I mean. So, okay.
We're kind of fired up today.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
All right. Yeah, so thanks for tuning in with whatever your podcast platform of choice is. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you joining us for the 4th episode already. Chit-chat, coffee, roasting, artificial intelligence, Calvinism, all that good stuff.
It's all here, man.
It's happening today.
It will happen, and we don't have a choice.
Yeah. So we had 4th of July this last weekend. But it actually was a Monday, but we enjoyed ourselves at the parade this year.
Yeah, fun times. They're really ramping it up.
Yeah. So Hancock, we go to the Hancock parade, and Hancock's a town of how many people? Like 250? 350?
Oh, no, 700.
700.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's 700 people.
Come on, Bob.
I way underestimated that. Town of about 700 people, but the parade, they put on a parade like it's a town of 15,000.
Really?
I think so.
Wow.
So I mean,
it's
in my
a big
personal
deal.
opinion,
There are a lot of people who come.
Now, maybe there's not the quantity of floats and stuff like that, but I think the quality is there for the size. I think it's very comparable.
Sure.
I love the Hancock Parade. My folks have come. They come from big cities, and they're like, wow, this small town feel, this is just a great parade. Kids still can throw candy at people. And actually, your kid got whacked in the melon with a hard blow pop.
It's still the Wild West in Hancock. They're not just dropping them at kids' feet. They're like chucking them from halfway across the street.
And if I remember correctly, it was like a girl princess.
Yeah.
Like on the back of
a
convertible who threw a blow pop.
Like a dairy princess or something, just wound up and chucked it.
Yes. Oh, little Ransom. I love that boy. It wasn't Ransom. It was Reese got hit.
Yep.
Oh, man. Gosh. Yeah, that was kind of funny, but yeah, they handed out, so obviously the highlight of the parade was the Hancock Concrete Company handing out chocolate malt ice creams to all the adults and kids, but they definitely made sure the adults were getting some ice cream. By far the highlight. If John's reading something, he's not paying attention to anything I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm doing some last minute research.
You piece of crap.
About that.
Yeah.
So here's a little bit of controversy with the 4th of July. I saw some different posts about, so everybody's celebrating freedom and everything, and then somebody shared Lecrae's post about like their slave family. He's a black dude.
Yeah.
His slave family on July 4th of 1776.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And he's like, this was my 4th of July.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah, there was a little confusion as to the post, and I'm like, I got it right away. Like, people kind of idolize and like hold up our independence when really like we were founded on some maybe not so good stuff.
So I don't think I have anything wrong with it because it's.
Do you think
true.
it's bad taste?
No.
Like, can we just celebrate the fact that we're independent? Can we talk about slavery some other time?
Yeah, is it literally raining on the parade?
Yeah.
It could be a little bit, but it's...
I don't think his point is wrong. I think it's maybe in bad taste.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that many people are actively choosing to ignore the fact that we had to deal with and get over slavery, and maybe are still dealing with it.
Well, and also, too, his general audience that he's submitting that to aren't like, yeah, we got to go back to olden times and put people slaves. Like his audience is not, let's make black people slaves again.
Yeah.
So
beating a dead
horse.
What's
and it's well, obviously recognition of what happened, acknowledgement of
Sure.
what happened, and remembering where it happened. So that way, you really understand. Maybe the point is really understand what your freedom's about. Really understand that not everybody has been free, and don't take for granted what your freedom is.
Right.
Because maybe at any point someone can come in and can take that freedom away.
Right. Just because we broke with Britain doesn't mean, it's all sunshine and roses. There's still work to be done.
Still work to be done.
All right. I can see it.
Cool. I
So-
felt smart there. Just for a
All
minute.
right. Props to you. So, Bobby, your
Yes.
cheek is looking extra smooth and cherubim-ish.
I am ecstatic
Why
about
is
my
Are you
latest.
ecstatic? Haven't again.
Pause. Go. We going? I am excited to tell you about a new adventure I have in my life. It's it's kind of a love affair, but my wife totally knows about it.
Oh, okay.
And it's with safety razor shaving.
I'm glad you added the shaving.
Yes. Safety razor murder? Like, what did you think I
I
was
don't
going
know.
with?
It
Okay.
could go anywhere.
Okay.
I'm not omniscient.
So, Johnny, you're gonna get it today. Give you my best. Okay, so I have all of my shaving career suffered from razor burn really bad on my neck. So my face, not so much, my neck all the time. And in college, I changed to an electric shaver for speed and convenience. And
those awesome commercials.
yes, right. They hooked me in. Actually, a friend hooked me in. He's like, you should try this. And I said, okay. I tried it. Took a while to get used to it, but it worked, and I had a lot less irritation on my neck.
And
When
this was before the beard revolution, by the
for
way.
my beard
Everybody
revolution.
shaved.
Yep. So I would grow a beard in the wintertime and all that stuff. But so circumstances presented itself. I needed to actually use a blade while traveling. I forgot my electric shaver. So I went back, got my old Mach 3, got some Gillette Edge, and bladed it. And it wasn't too bad. I was like, I could start doing this again. A little bit closer shaved than the razor. And it actually took either the same amount of time or less than electric.
Okay.
Still got the crazy razor burn, though, again on my neck. So I started investigating. What can I do about this? And everything I started reading was like from Art of Manliness blog, Shave Like Your Grandpa.
They're great, by the way. Check out their site. Check out their podcast.
Absolutely.
We like them.
Love them. You got to shave like your grandpa. Use a safety razor, because one of the problems and causes of irritation is a lot of the creams with all the chemicals that are in it
Okay.
can cause it. Also, actually, the multiple blades contribute to it because of its pulling nature, how stuff can get caught in there. It just isn't the cleanest of shaves. Safety razor shaving, if you're unaware of it, is a single blade that is kind of curved that you would have to match kind of an angle to your face. It's a much heavier duty razor that holds the blades. And you also should apply the cream by using a brush, kind of like barber style. Get a brush, apply a little cream in the brush. You build up a nice good lather for a couple minutes, apply it to your face, and then you use the safety razor. Literally, the first 3 strokes on my cheeks, instant difference. Much smoother, no pulling. It just incredible change in the experience of the shaving. And then when I went to my neck, no razor burn at all. And I've had it every single time I've ever shaved with a blade in my life. This is the first time I've not had irritation. Gentlemen out there, you got to start shaving like your grandpa. You got to go safety razor shaving. We'll probably talk more about this in other episodes. Maybe even talk like fully in depth, like how do you do safety razor shaving.
Could we stick a link in the description?
We'll stick
maybe?
some links of some. Actually, there's a couple really good podcast or YouTube tutorials on how to safety razor shave.
So you don't take your chin off when
Yep.
you're doing it.
And so the big thing is it is different. You don't apply any pressure. You let the weight. So the razor itself is actually a weighted razor. It's very heavy. So you let the weight of the razor actually do the pressure on your face. So it's, man, I really recommend this.
Wow.
It is such a difference, and it's kind of like it's a hobby almost. Lots of guys really, you can spend a lot of money on this stuff, a lot of money. So the brush itself, so I got a brush that's a badger hair brush, 100%
Ooh.
badger hair. As soon as it came out of the box, I smelt it. It smells like animal, man. It's like, well, this is legit.
Call of the Wild right
Yeah,
there.
it really different experience, but man, I'm not going back. This is really where it's at. You want to get a nice shave. You want to get a fun experience and actually have some, I call it the me time, because I got a house full of girls. I need some me time. And this is actually a good morning routine in the bathroom that's not involved like looking at a phone, if you know what I mean. Sitting on the porcelain throne, as it were.
King Bob.
Now I'm doing the razor, safety razor hobby. I totally recommend this to everybody. So we'll send some links out. We'll talk about this more. But that's my kind of experience from this last week. It was actually last night. I totally in love. And I got all these products from Italian products. So everything on the box is in Italian.
Nice.
It's I don't know. There's a coolness factor to it. It's unique. It's fun.
So we might see
manly.
if
it's
if
very
next,
manly. I mean, you're taking a blade, straight blade to your face. Like you have to be very delicate just to hold it because you could cut yourself really easy. So instantly you are more manly. I mean, I think actually as I reduced hair from my face, hair was growing on my chest.
There
just
you
like
go.
popping out.
Yeah, man.
Here it comes. Yeah. So
next week we might do a little blurb about this company and talk more specifics.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
We're hoping to do it. Maybe next week, maybe in the coming weeks, but we'll.
But in the meantime, if you are a shaver and you suffer from razor burn, check out the cream you're using and consider a safety razor.
Yes, absolutely. Coffee.
What
are we drinking?
We are drinking actually one of my well-liked brands, Kicking Horse. They're from Canada. They're a free trade deal. Bobby made the coffee this morning, and it's absolutely terrible. I usually like this stuff, and he brought it from work. It is from Meadowland, so it might be a little old.
So Meadowland is a Benton Dent
discount grocery
store. They got older products, whatever.
But this blend is kick ass, and it is the dark blend.
And I actually made it darker than what I normally make it as per instructions I thought I was getting, but I was actually getting a warning, don't do that. So I misunderstood the instructions from someone else who made it, and I screwed it up. But
well, let's just say I'm looking forward to roasting some of my own stuff and bringing it next week.
Yeah.
Because this is definitely lacking.
But yes. Okay. Shall we get to it?
Yeah, man.
All right. Let's dive into the fresh roast.
Okay, so the other day I was just browsing news, I think, and Elon Musk came up.
Okay. What is Elon Musk is the
Elon
Tesla
Musk,
owner, right?
Yep,
Tesla, not the Tesla coil, but the Tesla car.
Yeah. He also does SpaceX.
Yes, that's so
privately owned space ships, rockets,
yeah,
satellites.
I think they were one of the first, like the private company to send something into space and to land it back on the Earth safely. Correct?
Yeah, without
I believe so.
much damage.
Producer, can you look up that? Go ahead, look that up.
He also has a solar panel company.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Lesser known, but doing really well. Anyway, he is getting some press lately for his fear of artificial intelligence. And I'm like, what? Is this like for real?
Oh
like,
my goodness.
So apparently the
Sassy
idea
pants.
of artificial intelligence, maybe not totally conscious artificial intelligence,
Okay.
but there are several tech companies that are apparently beginning to use or term their own technology artificial.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, Google is actually using their terminology of AI to formulate replies on their Gmail. So
I've been seeing
you
this.
get an email,
Yep.
and it scans all the text and it figures out what our natural normal response is. And if you want, you can just click on the phrase and send it off. You don't have to think.
The first time I saw it, I was very impressed on how incredibly accurate it is.
It is accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some times where I'm like, that's accurate, but I would never say that.
Yeah.
But usually it knows what's
going on.
So Elon Musk is saying, guys, like, if this really happens, we're going to have machine gods. And even in a benign setting, we're going to be like house pets to these guys.
Gosh.
Like,
has he been
that's
watching
if it's benign.
iRobot again?
Yeah, I mean, so he said if you want nightmares, check out this short story. And
Oh boy.
it's the what is it called? I have to scream and I have no mouth, something like that.
So I had a that's
check
kinda
it out
freaky.
online.
That's kind of freaky.
It's really freaky.
'Cause I've actually had a dream where I had to scream and I couldn't open my mouth.
Okay.
And it was terrifying.
So it's this short story. It's really old school. Like, it came out right as computers were being made, basically.
Okay.
And everybody went to the AI thing. And I think that's why a lot of people like write it off because whatever. Like the science fiction guys have been like yapping about this forever.
Okay.
The idea of the story is that this machine basically took over all machines and it's controlling these 5 people's reality. It destroyed everybody else on the planet except for the ones that created it and is basically turned into this just rage machine. It hates the fact that it's a machine and it's aware of the fact that it's a machine. So it just tortures these people and makes them live forever.
Oh my god.
And it's horrible. So it's like, I mean, if that is even the remotest possibility, like,
so the
let's
machine
work
makes the
on this.
creators live forever.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so the last character, because he contrives a way to trick the machine and ends up killing some of the ones. And so he does it like as a mercy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's the only one left at the end. And he's basically just been turned into this gelatinous blob. And so his mind is intact.
Oh my goodness.
And all he can do is, like, he wants to scream, but he has no mouth. It's like, dude.
Oh my gosh.
It's terrible. So
my soul hurts now.
right? I mean, it's just freaky. So I got to thinking about, like, you know, artificial intelligence and what is this and are we really in danger?
Yeah.
And I guess what's your thought?
I don't think we're in danger. I really don't. I think there's an element of consciousness that can't be programmed.
Sure.
It's fake intelligence. I mean, it's artificial. It really is.
Yep.
It's always is dependent upon ones and zeros. Maybe getting into the point where computers can write their own code and process it. That maybe we'll get. That's probably what's going on already.
Yeah, I think so, especially with
developing their own learning mechanisms and writing their own functions and codes and stuff like that. Even there, though, you're still limited. I mean, we can pull the plug, turn it off. It's a machine. It's a computer. The big fear factor comes into what are we allowing the intelligence to control?
Okay.
Right? I mean,
yep.
If you're allowing it to control weapons, are you allowing it to control scenarios like, what was it? The Sum of All Fears movie with Ben Affleck and Morgan Freeman. That was that wasn't the movie. Why am I missing it? Oh, War Games. I'm thinking of War Games.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm thinking of that. War Games, where the computer basically dictates, I need to just start shooting off weapons.
Yep.
Because this is the most logical conclusion. I think that's the
so
fear.
maybe just common sense will keep some of those things from happening.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not going to automate the systems for nuclear weapons.
Yeah, we're not getting Skynet.
It's just not going to happen.
We're not getting Terminator and Skynet.
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening. I think we're going to see an intelligence level, an artificial intelligence level in the next 10 years that is going to be crazy awesome and beneficial and very convenient. But I mean, we still can't build robots that walk yet very well. I mean, you can watch the Boston Dynamics robots and the Honda robots, and they work pretty cool. And you're like, wow, this is really neat. And then you see the outtakes, and it's like banana peel, and it just falls all over itself, and things explode, right? So yeah, we have some awesome things out there. I don't have a fear because probably I'm guessing in my lifetime there's nothing to be afraid of. But we are human, and we can make really dumb decisions like, hey, let's make a computer in charge of weapons of mass destruction.
That is true.
So
well,
I think that's the biggest
let's back
fear.
up. Let's make weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, okay.
Hello.
So we already have strike one against us.
Yeah.
We've made some weapons of mass destruction. Strike two is let's put some computers in charge of it and give them some parameters. And I mean, think about it. We screw things up all the time in our code, like NASA configuring their launch and sequence and things they're trying to communicate in meters, and the like rover lander or something, Mars lander is configured in feet, in yards.
Whoops.
So El Smasho into Mars or the moon or whatever it was. Yeah. We screw things up.
Yeah, man.
So the fear is not in the intelligence. The fear is in humans.
Yeah, well, I would say, which kind of segues into my next point. I think my fear would be in control.
Yeah.
If we maintain control and we allow very specific things to do specific functions, and we allow for artificial intelligence within those bounds, like, I'm fine because it's a closed system.
But do we always have control?
Right,
John?
and
that's the farce.
That's sort of my thing. Like, kind of switching that to maybe a spiritual aspect. Like, how risky was it for God to give us control? And then the natural, obvious next question, depending on
will robots ever love us?
your
That's what your question is.
clearly, that's my question. No, the follow-up, depending on your theological views, is whether or not we actually have control.
Yeah.
And I would argue that to an extent we do.
Yeah.
How powerful are we? Not very.
Way to go, producer. Just dropping stuff.
Wow.
That's my phone, by the way.
Don't worry, it's a
Jeez.
droid. The screen won't
Keep
break.
going, Johnny. I'm picking it up.
All right. So to me, the great the miracle maybe is the fact that we have been given control. We've been given choice, and that speaks of distinction between us versus robots,
And
basically.
animals.
And animals.
Yeah.
I mean, you could maybe argue to some degree they have choice, but not to the degree that we do.
Yep.
And that to me is kind of mind-blowing. But the Calvinist would say, boy, I don't know. I mean, do they really go so far as to say we have no free will?
Like the John Pipers
Yeah.
and the Calvinists? I think so. I think I think they would say you have free will. They don't argue that you don't have it, but I think their basic definitions of things and what control God does have, it really means I think it really means you don't have free will.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we talk tulip, we talk total depravity, unconditional election, limited atonement, irresistible grace, and perseverance of the saints. Now, maybe they're saying, some Calvinists would probably say, maybe they're more moderate, would go that your free will is an area outside of subjects regarding salvation. So
Okay.
so the absolute control is in regards to your eternal soul.
Right.
And
I would
what
argue
you want
actually
to
that-
have for dinner tonight is completely your free will.
Right.
Right?
But to me, that's like, okay, pick for me what I'm going to have for dinner. I don't freaking care.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able to choose what I'm doing with my soul.
So you want the other way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because
Do you? Do you really?
Okay, so it's scary.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to, let me put it this way, the beauty of creation is the fact that the ultimate importance, the ultimate significance of your choices are choices.
Sure.
So if God is just picking his homies that he wants to hang out with forever, like,
Lame-o. I don't want that God.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, it is kind of scary.
Yeah. But there's also, okay, let's take the I'm going to take the Piper defense method here.
Okay.
There's also a security and beauty in knowing that the one thing that can be in control is in complete control. And you are absolutely certain that everything is happening for an ultimate purpose that is good all the time. You are never in doubt of bad or what is perceived to be evil, because you know beyond a certainty of a doubt that God is in complete control of whatever the situation is. It's not up to some Yahoo's free will and free choice to kill your family.
Yeah.
Now, maybe if your family dies because of some person's actions, you can ultimately rest on the fact that God willed it for happen. I don't know the reason, but it happened. It was God's choice that it happened, and I'll maybe know or maybe not know in the end.
So
and there's probably actually a security in that.
That is Piper's stance.
I would think so. I've heard him say, like in a video before, like God has controlled every speck of dust that is floating in the air.
Wow. I mean,
but he goes,
so
"What would you rather?" Yeah, we'll get to that later.
The would you rather?
What would you rather have?
Right. Man, I mean, I understand the desire behind that concept.
Mm-hmm.
We like security.
Yeah. Yes, and it's kind of it's kind of like we're in control, knowing God's in control. Like, I'm in control of these emotions. I can have an answer. It's control of the answer is really what it kind of seems like, because something bad happens and we want to have an answer for it. So, hey, I got the answer. God's in complete control. He has dictated that this should happen.
Yeah.
I got the answer. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to struggle with the pain, with the evil, with the perception of injustice, right? I don't have to struggle with that because I have the answer.
Mm-hmm. So, according to Greg Boyd, who is John Piper's arch
nemesis,
I found
also
out,
in Minnesota. I love the fact that
they're both in
Minnesota.
the cities.
Yeah.
Both run Baptist churches. Actually, Piper tried to kick
Mm-hmm.
Boyd out of the Baptist deal for being a
Gotta
heretic.
love the Christians.
Yeah, just lots of love right
Kicking
there.
people out.
Anyway,
Excommunication.
So,
Shut your mouth.
I found this article where Boyd is sort of answering different questions. He espouses the open theism, or
baby.
there's a few different terms. It's
Or
like
crazy radicals.
yeah.
Oh, that's what I mean. Yeah.
And he says there's like 39 passages or something in Scripture where God changes his mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me kind of flies in the face of Calvinism.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we could go deep. I don't know if we want to go deep. I think it's enough to say that, so there's places in Exodus, he was going to God was going to smoke the Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
And Moses was like, dude, what are the Egyptians going to think if you just lead them out of slavery and just smoke them?
Yep.
And God's like, oh, yeah, you're right. I won't. So either God is being disingenuous to Moses, which I don't think is in keeping with his character, or he changes his mind, which can't work, I think, in Calvinism, unless maybe there's a more moderate view. But I just don't think it works at all. I mean, if you're allowed to change your mind, you're essentially altering the future. So you're taking the predetermined, already going to happen, I know what's going to happen because it's set in stone, and you're changing it. By definition, it's not set in stone.
Yeah. I think the counter argument in the God's changing his mind interpretations of the Bible is that a lot of them I would say traditional Orthodox would say it is a perception on man's part that is a changing of God's mind. But God's mind is not ultimately changed by us. Like, what will happen has already been set. Possibly. I'm trying to think of this. It's hard to articulate it. God knows what's going. Let's say their position is God knows what's going to happen. Okay, and if the perception on man is I will give you these I'm going to do this, and like Abraham petitions, but if one soul, if there are 10 souls in Sodom that are good, would you destroy the whole? No, I won't. And then he goes down to 1. Oh, no, I won't. Okay, I won't do it if there's 1 soul. So the perception of God changing his mind. Then what did he do? He still wiped out the whole city.
Well, because he didn't find any.
Yeah. But the perception was like Abraham helped change God's mind.
So you're saying that he was already going to smoke it because he knew.
Yeah.
He was just toying with.
It wasn't that he's toying. It's just that he is showing that he knows more than Abraham knows.
So he couldn't have just said, "Don't worry about it. There's nobody there." But
it's also there's poetry in the conversation. So we're talking also literary style. We're talking.
I don't know, man.
So I think you would have to look at each verse separately, and I bet you traditional Orthodox have a response to each verse that
of the
39 to say how it's not how it actually isn't a or you use the grand catch-all, which is we don't know why it perceives God changes his mind, but we know he doesn't, so we'll ultimately know the answer later.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the main the main refutation that Boyd presents is that the idea of a concrete future and looking through that lens at Scripture is actually a very Greek mindset.
Yeah.
What does he say? I'm looking at the website here. Classical theism, basically, which was born out of Greek thought, is the idea that everything in the future is fixed and therefore can be known by the gods.
Yeah.
And so that's a framework that you can look at. And I'm sure there are a handful of verses that could support that stance in the Bible. But I would argue that there are just as many that would support the opposite.
Sure.
And can we not say, to me, Boyd's response is interesting because it does not say that God is not in the know. Piper kind of says, you either get a God who knows everything and everything is set and controls everything, or you get a God who makes mistakes because he doesn't know what's going to happen. It's like it's either omniscient or it's not. And Boyd says he can be omniscient. The future just isn't fixed. He knows all possibilities. If I go A instead of B, he knows what would happen after B and A. So before I make the choice, he still knows. It's not a question of knowledge, and I think that's what a lot of classical theists have a problem with.
But here's where
open theism is
refuting his omniscience.
Yeah.
Here's where I have maybe a little bit of a problem. So if we have a God who's outside of time, let's start there. Do you believe God is outside of time? If he did God create time?
Yes.
Okay. So if we use that as a baseline, God is outside of time, and he knows. Let's start with the
I guess I don't like that phraseology, and maybe I'm just splitting hairs.
I think you're splitting hairs.
I like the idea that God is not bound by time.
Okay. Did God create time?
Yes.
Okay. So if he created time and he's not bound by time, and let's start with the premise that you had that God knows all of the options of what we could choose. Why would he then be restricted to not know what option will be chosen? If he knows all of the available options and he's outside of time because he created it, or he's not bound by time,
right.
why would he be limited and not actually knowing what you would choose?
So the underlying assumption that you're going off of is that the future already exists.
No, it doesn't exist. It's just known. So only to God. So
as a possibility.
As what is known to be chosen. So
okay, but
so hold on. So your child, let's say your oldest, the O-Dog, gets some ice cream, and then Reese gets some ice cream, and they both have ice cream cones. And Owen smacks the ice cream cone out of Reese's hand, and it falls to the ground. Reese has all of the options and choices in the world. But you, as his father, knows exactly what's going to happen. He knows what could happen. You know what could happen in both instances of what Reese can do. Not deck Owen or deck Owen, but you know what's going to happen. Reese is going to deck Owen.
Right. So
and he had the free choice to make it.
Right.
Both options were presented to him, and you know the outcome of all of it.
I don't disagree. What I am saying is that Reese hasn't already hit Owen at some
Correct.
point in the future.
Correct. Yes.
And I am not deciding that Reese will hit Owen.
Agreed.
I am smart enough to know what's going to happen next.
Yes. So you just went back on what you said, though. You know what's going to happen next. If God also knows what's going to happen next, you said he's limited in only knowing
limited.
the options. Yes, you did. You said he only knows the options of what could happen in both outcomes, but he doesn't know what will be chosen. But in our analogy, you do know he knows what's going to be chosen.
If you want to go technical, then I can't know because it hasn't already happened. If you wanted me to put money on whether or not Reese would deck Owen, absolutely I would.
Well, okay,
that's a very natural response.
But
I can be allowed to be surprised.
Taking it as an analogy to God, he's not wagering, he knows. He also, we talk about his forbearance, his foreknowledge, when we talk about Romans 8 or Romans 7.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Scripture also is pretty, think about prophecy. How do we explain prophecy of people who can outline what the future will be?
Right. So
when they're just people, let alone God.
Well, it's not just people.
Well, prophets. But I'm saying they're getting information from God of what will happen in the future. And yet I still agree, though. All of the choices are still available. Yeah. But God does know what will be chosen ultimately.
Usually those prophecies are conditional. If we're talking about revelation, I would argue that it's because God is still an active agent in the universe.
Revelation,
these things will happen.
That's a bigger animal, though. Let's talk about, if we just talk about Isaiah, if we talk about other prophets, Old Testament prophets prophesying about Jesus, even just taking that one example. It says, before the foundations of the earth, we knew Jesus was going to come, going to save us. We talk about also, if you talk even just about like the Bethlehem star or something like that, right? That there was a star pointing directly to when Christ was born and where he was born, right? All of the elements of the cosmos, when they were created, were set in motion in time for that one specific event to happen. God knew the exact moment in time, when it was going to happen, when they were going to be looking, yet all choices through all human history up to that point were freely made.
Right. So can he not be orchestrating things as they happen? It has to all be pre-planned and pre-made.
I don't think he's planning it. No, I think that maybe that's where we're getting a miscommunication. I don't think God is planning the future of all things. I think he plans some things, but I don't think he plans all things. I just think he knows what the ultimate choices are going to be. And both choices are available to an agent to have free will. Let's say there are two choices.
Right.
God knows what are the outcomes of both choices. Like, say, for example, he talked to David, and David asked, should I go besiege the city or should I wait? Mm-hmm. I forget the exact verse and location and context, but I know that's what happened. And he said, if I go, what will happen? And God said, this is what will happen. And then he said, then I should stay. And God said, yes, you should stay. God knew what the outcomes would happen in both choices. Totally agree. But he also knew what David would choose. That doesn't mean he plans it. God sent his son. He knew Jesus had the choice. And verses clearly show, God, please take this away from me if it is of your will, but your will be done, right? Jesus had the choice, but God knew what Jesus would choose. I don't think that's in control, though. Knowing what you would choose doesn't mean you're necessarily controlling it. I think there's a balance between the open theism that Boyd's talking about. When I just started reading today the article,
yeah,
I kind of like a lot of what he's saying, and I think it is in Scripture has a really funny way of balancing the crap out of you. God is in complete control of this, yet you can obviously see he's helping with choice and he's giving options, and I think both are clear at the same time. Now, maybe we're trying to make a finite rule to something that's infinite we can't make the rule of. But I do think God probably knows the outcome. I would agree with Boyd that he knows the outcome of all possible choices. And I think I would agree with traditional theists that God knows what the choices are going to be.
But isn't that saying that?
Just like with your son, if you know what choice Reese is going to take before he chooses it, it doesn't mean you did anything to Reese. You didn't dictate a thing. You just know what's going to happen. You're his father. Ooh, analogy to father God.
Okay, so I don't know that I entirely disagree. Though what I do want to bring up though is the garden in the fall.
Ooh, okay.
Because we sort of write that off because there are a few passages that talk about, like, Jesus was the lamb slain from the foundation of the world and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so we were created, Adam and Eve were created in the garden without sin. They had the option of sinning. And using several points of scripture, the argument has been made, I don't know if you're making it or if it's just other people, they would go to the fact that God knew that they were going to sin.
Yeah, I would say that he probably knew that too.
Okay. Then there's no choice.
No, I disagree with that. Just because you know what the action is doesn't mean there's no choice.
No, but
so the counter thing is he knew that was going to be the happen, but God obviously chose to create the world this way, knowing it to happen. Why? I think the ultimate answer is love. That without the full choice of having, without having us have free will, the ultimate expression of who God is love. And we can't fully have that. We can't fully have love of God, love of the Father, and reciprocate love to him and have it. We can't have that loving relationship with him without our free will, without our free choice. And I think
right,
God,
out
of all of the optional universes he could have created, knowing the outcomes of all of them, created this one, knowing that this was the way to get love.
But there's still no choice if you know what's going to happen.
But just because the outside agent knows what's going to happen doesn't mean the internal agent doesn't have a choice. I think that's where the balance comes in.
No, because you have to allow for the possibility that we would have chosen not to sin.
But just because you know what they're going to choose doesn't mean you're not allowing the possibility. You're not allowing the environment for them to actually make the choice. It's the same with the Reese and the ice cream. The environment is still there. You know what Reese is going to choose. He's completely independent.
But
and can make the choice.
let's be real. Reese has the option to not react.
Yeah, but you know what
that's
he's gonna
a possibility.
Do. Yes, it is.
Until he reacts.
Yes.
That is as much a
versus
possibility.
Knowledge. Determination versus foreknowledge I don't think is the same thing.
Well, maybe we're talking about determinism then.
Yeah, you might be. I don't think determinism is the same thing as foreknowledge. Because God is also an element we can't how can we actually define this element? We're trying to well, obviously he has this attribute. It's well, we've given labels and names that have bounds to attributes of God that maybe we can't fully describe. I think God can have foreknowledge of something without interfering with our free will. I think that's the balance of Scripture.
Okay.
Is that he knows what will happen, yet we still, at the same time, have complete free will.
But what are you knowing? Are you knowing an event? Because that already happened, or is fixed, or you know a possibility?
Both.
No, can't be both.
Why?
Because I could either trip or keep walking. I can't do both.
You can't do both, but you may know what will. Well, actually, you can in the future do both, but only one thing will happen.
Okay, I'm saying in the very next step, if I'm walking along and I stop and I take one more step, I will either stay on my feet or I will trip.
Yep.
I can't do both.
Correct.
You can't know until it already happened. So
hold
on.
Why can't
you
God?
Can't know until it already happened. So that means the future already happened and he knows what I'm doing, or I have the choice and the possibilities both exist as much as the other.
So to God, is it impossible for him to have the future have already happened?
That's the whole argument. Because if the future already happened, bye-bye to free choice.
No, I don't think they're exclusive.
They have to be.
No, they don't.
Yeah, because if I trip and God knows that I trip, then I already tripped. I don't have the choice. If I go left instead of right and God knew that I was going to go left instead of right, then I already went left.
But if
Because if I went
don't
right,
think so.
that wouldn't be the
Here's
future that
the
God
reason
knows.
why I don't think we can go there is because I don't think we would disagree with some elements since before the creation of the world have already been determined by God. Jesus will come.
See,
Jesus will come
I
back.
go back to
Since
the fact that God is an active agent in this world. He can do things. It doesn't mean that he set up the entire thing from the beginning and it's just going to happen no matter what he does or what we do.
Well, see, I would say it
He is
would.
orchestrating events as they happen to allow for Jesus to come.
I don't think that's the balance of what Scripture would say.
Why not?
Maybe we leave it to
Isn't that just the phraseology of the opposite side, that you have said that we're just humans trying to understand God, and when he changes his mind, he didn't actually change his mind. It's just humans trying to comprehend it.
I think
Isn't it humans just trying to comprehend the fact
it
that
very well could
God
be.
foreknew?
So I would say my final point would be that I don't think we can distinctly set the limit to God's ability to foreknow what the future will be and also allow free choice of the agents within the time. I don't think that's a limit that we can put on him necessarily because he's freaking God. Why can't he have both elements at the same time? Because we're trying to put on a cap of what we know of time. When we make absolute statements of you can do one or the other, you can't do both, and if you know what's going to happen, therefore it's already happened. I don't think we can make that statement. Maybe for us we can, but we can't for God. I don't think we can.
So I don't like that answer, because to me it just says God can do anything and we can't think about that.
Yeah. Why not? That's a release of our control that we have.
No, it just means that we're stupid and we can't understand what's going on. I'm not saying like we can expect to know perfectly what's going on, but
are we expected to know everything that's going on? I think we could talk
No.
about it. Okay.
I'm not even going there. I'm saying, what sort of God do we have? Do we have someone who allows choice out of love, or do we have someone who is fashioning a universe where everything happens the way that he expects?
I think there's a divine balance that we don't understand. That's where I'm getting at. I think some things have been determined. I think other things have not been. I think there is a weird divine balance of God's intervention on us. I think there's a weird divine balance of what is known that we can't understand.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think it has a balance of flavors of I don't really like that's how it works, and I do like how it works. I think we're going to have a slight sour taste when we get to heaven and God's like, I was in control of this and and I let you do that. We're going to go, but why? I think even when we get to heaven, we're going to still have but whys.
Right. And I don't want to be misunderstood by saying God is not in control because he can't be.
Mm-hmm.
I think God can be, and he chooses not to in areas.
Sure.
And I think, like you said, there are places that have been determined, such things like Revelation, whatever your take on that is, and Jesus coming to be crucified. Those sorts of things absolutely happened and couldn't be otherwise. I'm just
You're
saying,
just thinking he's so on the cusp of time and elements, and he's manipulating things in a way to make that happen.
because he can do things.
Yeah.
Like
I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying I wanted to clarify.
So
you think he's like he's on the front half a second of time to be able to help manipulate things, or in history past to be able to help manipulate things to
because
get to where they need to be.
these infinite amounts of possibilities for every human and every event are still known. God is not ignorant of anything. I don't think that's in question at all, although I think some of the classical theists would try to argue that.
Yeah.
My point is, like, if I say, like, Bobby, you're going to have a red mark on your cheek in 5 minutes, and then in 5 minutes I punch you, like, that came true.
Yeah.
So the idea of, like, well, that was just set in the future, boom, you're going to have a red mark on your cheek. Well, right, but that was because I actively participated in the
yes,
now.
yes,
You know what I mean?
yeah. But another balance into the free will thing is like there are elements that we have I think there's clearly we have elements of free will, and there are elements we don't. You didn't have a choice of where you were born. You didn't have a choice of what time in history you were born. You didn't have a choice who your parents were. All of these kind of things. You don't have choices about other people's choices. So there's elements of our free will that actually aren't free, and there are elements. So that's why I think there's a balance of like things are foreknown or maybe even determined by God. Like I want you here now.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
we don't have a
no problem with that. I mean,
right.
I'm not saying that we're all powerful.
Yeah, true. All right, so we're gonna leave it to we're gonna stop the fresh roast there. Leave it to our audience to comment, roast us on what you think we're saying and why we're wrong and why we're right. Comment on Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want to hit us up on. Just go and do that. So today's segment is going to be You're Doing It Wrong, and in honor of our 4th of July escapades, or did I say that right, John? Is it escapades?
Yes, you are correct.
Apparently I get a lot of words
I'm
with
ecstatic
ES
that you
or,
said it right.
or EX. I get a lot of those wrong. Fireworks. Americans, we're doing fireworks wrong. We're doing them wrong. Not just kind of wrong. We're really doing fireworks wrong. More than 12,000 Americans hurt themselves with fireworks last year, according to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Let's just go over a few different things Americans are doing with fireworks incorrectly. What are some of the most common things that come off, John, during fireworks? Do you think it's fun or lights or explosions? Or do you think it's body parts?
Body parts.
Yeah, let's go with body parts.
Yay! Ding, ding, ding.
Hands are the most injured body part, not surprisingly. Let's take a few examples. Omaha, Nebraska, a 31-year-old man was picked up in a medical helicopter after blowing off his hand with a firework. How about South Bend, Indiana? A gentleman blew off his hand outside a zoo after lighting a firework he believed to be a smoke bomb. Now let's get a little...
Let's just stop for a minute.
Okay.
Who lights off a smoke bomb near a zoo anyway? Are we just talking about stupid people, the same ones that we need to take guns away from?
We're probably talking about the same people.
Okay.
But it can't always be. So I saw a report of an ER doctor
oh no,
getting his hand severely burned by having a sparkler, essentially a sparkler bomb in his hand that he lit. I had a multiple amount of sparklers. He lit them and exploded in his hand, and lots of burn damage to his hand. And he, of course, had to go to the ER, I think, where he worked. And so his coworkers were like, "What are you doing?" So, yeah, okay, sad example. In California, a 9-year-old girl's left hand was amputated after someone threw a firework at her, and it detonated after she picked it up. She was taking a walk in the park with her grandmother.
Yikes.
This is where we're getting to the sad part, and we got to stop doing things wrong, people, because we think things are fun, but when, especially we're talking about innocent bystanders, and you're doing it in areas where you don't know the reactions or actions of people, what they're going to do, especially throwing a firework at a 9-year-old girl, like, oh, don't pick that up, honey. Obviously, she knows not to do that. Well, obviously, you shouldn't be throwing fireworks or having them going around in public places where she's taking walks in the park. We're doing this wrong, right? John?
Yeah.
Please tell me.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the more common example now last year was it the lineman for the Giants, the New York Football Giants. Is it Jean-Pierre Paul?
Yeah.
Blew off a lot of his fingers on his hand doing fireworks.
Yeah, man. All right, so here's the thing. People die from stuff, and people die from cars, and we got to drive cars. Got to celebrate, yo. That's a terrible argument, but I just made it.
Yeah, but you're also not like throwing your keys to your vehicle to a 9-year-old girl, and then she goes and drives it and gets into an accident. Like, that's not happening. But we're doing this every 4th of July.
Whoa.
There are all these different announcements going on.
Maybe it's a conspiracy theory. Maybe the Brits want us to blow ourselves up, so they're supplying fireworks to us on our Independence Day because they secretly really want to get us back.
You know, that's not it, Johnny.
Oh, come on, Bob.
Okay, so...
You mean we're just stupid and we're doing it wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Here's how you can do something right. 1, think Mythbuster style. Get behind a blast shield, get behind a wall, get behind something, and detonate big things from there. I'm cool with detonating big things, having explosions, and everybody going, woohoo! But you gotta
But
be
what if
smart.
it doesn't go off the first time?
Well,
We
let's
clearly just grab it with our bare hands, right?
yeah, that's what you should do. Also, get into electronics. Like, hey, what's cooler than having a hand detonator in like where you're far away that can remotely light your firework thing with a whole bunch of friends? 3, 2, 1, countdown. You push the detonator button. So get into electronics so you can learn how to do these kind of things. 1, you become a little bit smarter, and 2, you can still have fun. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Fireworks. You've been roasted. So, all right. This has been the Roasted Christian Podcast. I'm Bobby.
I'm John.
Thanks for listening.
You're welcome.